666.
Just over a year ago, on February 8th, 2021, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman announced that as part of an effort to reform judicial guidelines and improve the legislative environment in Saudi Arabia, 4 new laws were to be introduced. Those 4 laws are the law of evidence, personal status law, civil transactions law, and the penal code for discretionary sanctions. At the time, the Crown Prince noted that the new laws, quote, the new laws represent a new wave of reforms that will increase the reliability of procedures and oversight mechanisms as cornerstones in achieving the principles of justice, clarifying the lines of accountability. Although the law of evidence, which is an extensive document intended to codify procedures for various parts of presenting, examining, and making decisions on evidence at the kingdom's courts, and other judicial institutions, was the first to be approved by the Council of Ministers in December 21. The actual first law that will go into practice will be the recently announced personal status law. That will take effect in 90 days, so it'll be, by the summer it'll be in place. The personal status law is intended to address family preservation, family stability, the improvement of the status of family and their children, as well as the control in the judge's discretion to limit the discrepancy of judicial rulings on these matters. Among many other statutes, a woman is no longer legally obligated to ask permission to travel and marry. She is given the legal liberty to make personal decisions, including over her marriage and children. According to the Crown Prince, quote, the law is comprehensive. It addresses all the problems that the family and women are suffering from, unquote. This is really important, and I'm not Saudi, and I'm not a Saudi woman either.
Are you sure?
Yeah, but we have many friends who are Saudi women, and in the run up to the decision to let women drive in 2018, and there had been rumors and that sort of thing. But if you were talked to a Saudi woman prior to 2018, and so frequently the question by most people not Saudi would say, well, what about your right to drive? How important is this? And almost uniformly every Saudi woman would say, it matters, it's important, but honestly, my priority in terms of rights that are not available to me now are within my family household. The equitable rights that help me deal with marriage, children, schooling, medical, these things. And that's why this law, this personal status law, is really, really important and a big step forward, an important part of revamping the legal system in Saudi Arabia, which is ongoing. As I noted, there's 3 more to go. The law of evidence will be very important too, especially on the business side and other things. But this personal status law is exceptionally notable.
It's striking that when women were allowed to drive in Saudi Arabia, it was widely covered in all of the mainstream media in the West as, the Washington Post, New York Times, it was, almost front page news. And yet this almost got no coverage outside of, the focused on Saudi circles. And this is a way bigger deal than just the right to drive. And the right to drive was a huge deal, but this is all encompassing. It deals with family law. It's a huge overhaul in the law in Saudi Arabia. And it's really, this is a great one big thing, Richard, because this is a huge deal, a meaningful change for Saudi women.
That's an excellent point, and I hadn't really thought about that. But that speaks to so much of what's going on in Saudi Arabia, because the Saudis are looking around. All the way from Mohammed bin Salman in that Atlantic article, and they're basically saying, what the hell? Are you guys not paying attention? Mm-hmm. But that's always been the case with the West. They sort of latch on to the what they think are marquee issues, and use that as barometers of success or failure in terms of change. And they're not really understanding what's going on at lower, deeper, more substantial levels.
It's a good point. So this takes place. This comes into effect in probably 80 days from now. Is there more to go on the legal side for it to be? Because it's still a draft law. Is that correct?
No, everything's. So it's been all these. So he announced this in February 2021. So they've all been drafting these laws. And so the Council of Ministers has okayed the law of evidence, and has okayed the personal status law. It's just that the personal status law is going to come online faster. So I think they're going through the civil transactions law, the remaining two, the civil transactions law and the penal code of discretionary sanctions, are going through the drafting and getting approved by the council of ministers. So they're all should be coming along. It's just a matter they have to get through the process.
And this goes to another point that we've actually really talked a lot about on the 966 here. But Vision 2030 is not just an economic reform plan, and that's something that gets all the press, but it's a social reform plan as well. This is a meaningful social change. This is something this is an evolution in Saudi Arabia from, where they were in late 2015 to now. And it's a huge change. So very meaningful.
And just to add a point, the law of evidence in particular, one of the difficulties for your foreign business in Saudi Arabia is that in Sharia law, they don't work on precedent. So for example, the same issue may have come before a court 1,000 times, but the judge has the discretion to make a decision one way or another, which is a wild card, and you end up with some unfortunate judgments that are not consistent with precedent. But that's the kind of uncertainty that makes a business pause and go, well, wait a second here. If I can't reliably go to court and have a sense that the ruling is going to be consistent with precedent law, it's a problem. And that's so little things like that, like the law of evidence, and essentially saying these are the guidelines you're going to work with, and it's starting to establish precedent and what you can do in terms of any particular case. Exceptionally important. So that's on the business side, and on the personal status law, as we said, this is right in the home, and this is why it's so important to women.